Hey friends, Pastor Aaron here, and happy to join in with our Summer of Delight devotions, and just had a few thoughts to share with you in a particular direction today. It actually comes out of lots of places in Scripture, but I'll key in on Matthew 4:19, where Jesus is talking to Simon and Andrew, and his simple declaration to them is, "Come follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men." We see the same simple question asked of James and John. We see it asked of Matthew. This was the beginning of the relationship, the beginning of the journey, and really the extension of the relationship and the journey that disciples have with Jesus. This is the nature of the relationship, to follow him. It is a simple thing. It is not an easy thing, as we all know. But I was thinking about this idea of following, and especially in terms of the Summer of Delight. One delightful thing I got to do just a few days ago was to be with some friends, and we went up and we rafted the upper McKenzie in individual pontoon boats. A friend of mine has several individual pontoon boats. So it's just you in a boat with oars with these little pontoons, and you're small, so you can kind of skate through all the rapids that are up there. So we're way in the upper part of the McKenzie, where it's rapid after rapid. It is just a constant. It's basically like, imagine being on a rowing machine for 6 hours. That's what you're constantly doing in this, and it was so much fun. But me and actually Pastor Brandon was with us as well. We were both novices at this. We hadn't done this before, and so you get in the river and you have no idea where to go, where the right line is through the rapid, how to do that. And so our leader, our guide, Mark, good friend Mark, said, "Well, just follow me, just go where I go." And that took on such an incredible meaning for me in that process, because when you're doing this, you realize there's danger in this. There's rapids and rocks and ledges and branches that you can end up under, and if you do it wrong, it can mess with you, and it can end you. And so it was no small thing to go, "We need to follow you. We want to follow you because of the dangers that are around. We have no choice but to say, I'm going to follow you, and I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to lead. I don't want to be in charge." And I was thinking of how different that experience was to when we've floated the McKenzie in the summertime, a lot of times in inner tubes, the lower parts of the McKenzie, where it's a lot flatter water. A lot of your time is just spent hanging out with each other and talking and eating snacks and all that sort of thing. But there's a few rapids in between, but most of it is just very, very mellow. But this environment, because it was so tumultuous and so fast and so fraught with danger, it meant we had to follow someone. When we were just on the McKenzie before, you didn't have to follow anybody. You just let the river take it where it wanted you to go, and you could just follow yourself. You didn't have to have a whole lot of strategy in that. But when we were in this environment, suddenly we needed strategy, and we needed someone who knew what was ahead, who had been there, that could lead us, that we wanted to follow. And I think that is such a connection to this time of life for all of us, that in the tumult that is all around us, and in the rapids and the waves that we all find ourselves in, that this is a time that makes us go, oh, I really, really need to follow Jesus. I have no choice but to get close and to keep my eyes on him. And so that was the beginning of kind of this ongoing illustration of what it means to follow Jesus as we're going through these rapids. As we continued the journey, I noticed something as we're learning. Again, novices trying to just get through the panic of, man, can I make it through this, and starting to understand what it is to navigate this craft. I started to notice that in following our leader, it wasn't just about going where he was going. It was actually also about facing where he was facing. That I needed to be postured in the direction that he was in those places, so that I was ready for the next thing. And I was thinking about that in relationship with Jesus too, that I want to be where you're at and go where you're going, but I also want to be facing where you're facing. Where are you headed, Jesus? What is the next direction? And if I can be facing where you're headed, Jesus, then I'm going to be set up for that next rapid, for the next obstacle. because I'm deciding I'm going to face where you're facing. So that became such an important part, not just being in the right spot, but actually facing the right direction. That's so much of our life too, that we can be in the right spot, but we need to be facing the way Jesus is facing towards the things that he is doing, facing towards the things of his goodness, facing towards the things of his grace. That direction is really, really important. So I learned that lesson, that observation on this little trip. I also found myself making this observation when I've been on raft trips before, either in a raft or in a drift boat. I've never done what we did this time, this individual pontoon thing. But I did notice something when I've been in drift boats, and I noticed something on this trip with the people that are good at this, that have skills at this. You can be going through the same rapid together, and the expert will be able to just make just a couple of moves, and they're perfectly positioned in their boats. But a person like me, a novice, you'll just see me flailing, just working so hard to try to get in the spot I'm supposed to go, and I end up missing it anyway, and I'm working so hard to try to get in the right spot and be positioned properly. And that's the difference between the expert and the beginner. And I think that's a part of our relationship with Jesus too, that especially at first in following him, we're just beginners, we're novices, so it's a lot of work to try to get facing the right direction, try to get positioned in the proper way, to try to, it's a lot of work to follow. It's just hard. But this beautiful thing happens in maturity as Christ followers, and it's the hope of my life that eventually with Jesus, following doesn't require so much adjustment, that because I am in line with him and I'm in a good relationship with him, and I've followed him for so long, or at least followed him so diligently, that it just takes a couple of moves of the oars and I'm right where I need to be. That the adjustments that Jesus makes in us, they don't have to be so extreme, that they can be just, oh, okay, let me bring you here. Let me bring you here. That's really where I want to get to in my relationship with Jesus. I certainly don't feel like I'm there, and I feel like oftentimes I'm still just flailing with the oars when it comes to following Jesus. I feel like such a novice in so many ways. But I can see that ahead, that there would be this way of following him in my life, that it wouldn't require so much adjustment every time he says, now we're going this way, that it would be a simple adjustment because I've learned what it is to follow him. I've gotten better at working the oars. And then the last observation I would make from this experience of rafting was, this happened to us many times, certainly to Brandon and myself many times. We would try to get in the right position. We would end up spinning out on a rock, and we would go through a rapid backwards, which is an interesting experience, and it does bring you to prayer often. And you go through a rapid backwards, and you're not sure what's next, you're not sure you're going to make it. But what was always so comforting was that even when we did it wrong, and even when we went through the whole thing backwards, did every part of it the wrong way, we would always kind of come out the bottom of it, and there would be our guide Mark waiting for us and watchful over us and making sure if something happened, he was there. And I just love that image when it comes to Jesus too, that even when we do it wrong, even when we go through that season of life backwards and we hit every rock and spin out on everything, that he's still there. He's still with us. And that's true for you today too. You may feel like you're going through backwards right now. Well, just know Jesus is right there with you. And he wants to keep you safe. He wants to make sure even when we do it wrong, it doesn't mean that he's somehow decided, I'm done, I'm moving on without you. No, he stays right there with us. And that is the nature of what it is to follow him. That's what it's like to follow Jesus. And what a beautiful thing. What an incredible relationship that is offered to us, that each of us could walk in, what it really means to follow Jesus. And I think that's what he's leading us to in these times. So let him do it. Let him do that in the midst of this summer of delight. See him in the different things you're doing. But learn to follow close. I want to. I hope you will too. Take care.